So what are the different sections of a due diligence report and what do you look for in each section? Very important to understand, right? So whether you see in the corporate section, whether the registration is proper, whether the directors, what are their DIN numbers? Do they have, like, is it following all the company law? Is it properly valid? Does it have a registration certificate which is valid? Does it have all the secretarial work under the Companies Act? Is it following, right? So all of that will be disclosed in this section. Okay. Next is the finance. So you look at the finance. So you will see that, okay, has this company taken any loans? Does it have any charges on its assets? Does it have any finance agreements, facilities, anything? Finance also, certain of this information, financial information of the company will be disclosed, especially if there is any loans, which is usually the case. Any company will have some overdraft facility, some loans, some working capital facility, term loans, blah, 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 many things, mortgages, hypothecation. All of that will be disclosed here in the finance part. Okay. Then there is a licenses section, right? So it is obvious whatever licenses they might be having would be listed here, and whether they're valid or not, all of that will be listed here. Okay. If there is a threat to the license, that will also be listed here. Statutory compliances. So there are so many laws that may apply to a company. So is it complying to all those statutes? This is also a section. Tax, right? Is there any tax dispute? You don't go too much into taxes, okay? But you go into this, that, okay, have they been paying taxes? Do they have all the tax registrations? Is there any notice that they have received from tax department? Is there any litigation going on? What is happening? All of that. Disputes and litigation, very important. Is there any consumer litigation? Is there any litigation with any of the employees? Is there litigation with previous investors? If there's litigation with anybody, okay, any dispute, and maybe it's not litigation, maybe it is a mediation happened, or there is a litigation that is over. Maybe it is maybe there was just a notice from somebody. Everything has to, that's also a dispute. A notice may be the beginning of a dispute which you need to know about. So anything that is there, you want to know and you want to report it. Then intellectual property. Now, not all companies have intellectual property, but some companies have intellectual property. At least they have a brand name, trademark, that should be trademarked. So all of these things you see whether the company has its IP in order. Okay, important question. Then there is contracts. What are the contracts that the company has entered into? Are there any kind of bad clauses in those contracts? Sometimes companies, without realizing, get into contracts which are very open-ended, damages clauses, indemnity clauses. Okay, they do not limit or cap their indemnity. So those can be very dangerous contracts that can get them into a lot of trouble. If there is such things, you report it in the due diligence report. If there are bad contracts they have entered into, which has very onerous terms on the company, that you report. But other than that, you also see what are the very important contracts for the company's business. What is the status of these contracts? Have any notices been received under these contracts? Is there any breach of terms in these contracts from our side or from the other side? All of these things are to be checked and reported in due diligence. Real estate. So what are the premises of the company? Today, there are companies which are fully remote. They don't have any real estate at all, remote company. But generally speaking, most companies have warehouses, factories. They may not own their premises, offices. They may not own their premises, but at least they have some contracts, right? So all of these contracts have to be reviewed and have to be seen that, okay, if it is important for the business, is there any problem with these contracts? Is the business secured from real estate perspective, that is also checked. Okay. Labor and employment, this is also very important to see what kind of contracts the company has entered into with its employees. Okay, are there different types of contracts? There may be key managerial personnel like CEO, Chief Product Officer, CFO, Chief COO, Operating Officer, Chief Operating Officer. All these people, what kind of contracts do they have? Is there a key man insurance? Is there any litigation going on with anybody? Is there any sexual harassment allegation? This has become very important these days. Is there any kind of complaints from any kind of wrongdoing from, or a whistleblower, something from the employees? Anything is there, right? So then you would want to know before you invest. Okay, this is in labor and employment section. Okay, and all the regulations, all the laws that apply, are you complying? Do you have all the registrations? Are you paying PF? Are you paying ESI? Have you paid whatever laws are there under? There's even a Labor Welfare Fund Act which is applicable in some states. Are you paying that? Even in Bombay, there is a Security Guards Act which you have to comply with. That also you write, if that is applicable. There can be other sections too, depending on the business, right? Insurance can be an important factor in some business. Then there can be a whole insurance section, right? And there can be other sections also, depending on what the business is, right?